それがあなたの役職名？普通でいいね。
Since the operator's name is long, I would simply refer to her as Fia. Fia is a 6-star operator that specializes in nuking down enemies from afar with high bursts of AoE physical damage. She falls into the Artilleryman, sniper archetype. Artillerymen in general can produce extremely powerful AoE nukes that wipes groups of enemies. They typically have no issues fighting against high-armored enemies due to the combination of their massive attack stat and skill modifiers. With their big attack range, they can easily stay safe from enemy attacks. However, their actual DPS is quite low due to their very slow attack speed. This especially causes them problems when trying to activate their skills that use an offensive SP recovery method. Their deployment cost is also one of the highest in the game, making it almost mandatory to bring along a vanguard just to have them deploy early. Her first talent, Suffering, causes Fia to constantly lose 0.5% of current HP per 0.1 second. Emphasis on the word current HP, as this means that the lower Fia's HP gets, the lower the HP loss becomes. This effect cannot kill Fia as it cannot reduce her HP to 0. This talent also provides a plus 25% attack vigor effect when her HP is above 50%. Vigor effect is doubled when her HP is above 80%, giving her a maximum of plus 50% attack. This talent is one of the strongest attack boosting talents in the game, but the downside being, Fia will always require a healer to keep her above 80% HP. Her second talent, Declaration of the End, provides Fia up to 30 attack speed boost when the equipped skill isn't active. Considering that all of Fia's skills uses an offensive SP recovery method, the attack speed boost greatly improves her SP generation, which reduces the downtime of her S1 and S2, while S3 gets reduced wind-up time. Her first skill, You Must Resist, greatly increases attack and expands range into 3x5 tiles for 30 seconds. Her second skill, You Must Repent, when activated, immediately fires a scorching bullet that would leave marks within its projectile path. When the scorching bullet reaches the end of Fia's attack range, it would explode and deal a massive amount of AoE physical damage. Then, the marks would explode in sequence, each dealing high amounts of AoE physical damage in a smaller radius. Her third skill, You Must Repay, when activated, changes the way Fia attacks for an infinite duration. While the skill is active, Fia is forced to continuously attack the farthest mid-tile of her attack range. Enemies caught near the center of the attack would receive massive amounts of physical damage, while enemies farther away receive significantly less damage. All numbers are assuming Fia is at her peak operator stats and is equipped with the ART-Y module. The first value represents her damage when above 50% HP, and the second value represents her damage when above 80% HP. For the skill breakdown, I will be changing the format for this video. I will talk about all of her skills at the same time since I think this would explain her whole kit better. Fia's S1 is a very straightforward buff that greatly increases her attack and improves her already huge attack range. The issue with this skill is that Fia barely gets any DPS upgrade from her basic attack, since she loses her attack speed increase when S1 is active, which also means that it is as if she is only getting the extra attack range from S1. Another problem is, technically, S3 also improves her attack range as its explosion radius reaches the tiles beyond Fia's attack range. Not to mention, S3 has better DPS than S1. Therefore, there is almost no reason to use Fia's S1 over her other skills. The way Fia S2 works is that, first, she would fire a large projectile that would explode at the farthest tile of her attack range. This large projectile would leave marks in the ground that would explode in sequence, causing smaller explosions in the tiles ahead of Fia. Assuming that Fia is always attacking something continuously, her S2 is slightly ahead the DPS of her S3. S2 is particularly strong against huge bosses, and has a powerful synergy with a Saria equipped with GUA-X module. To maximize S2's damage further by utilizing its explosion mechanics, the ideal scenario is to allow Fia to attack enemies in the third tile in front of her. Basically, the third tile in front of Fia allows the small explosions to hit the enemies in it 3 times, and still be in range of the big explosion. This would improve her S2 DPS from 1427 to 1616. Fia's S3 is your best option if you want a true wide-ranged attack. Unlike Fia's other skills, S3 would consistently hit enemies within 3 lanes. Just note that since the splash range is a circle, some enemies on the sides might not get caught within the main AoE explosion and receive less damage. So, to improve her S3's damage consistency, ideally form a straight line of blockers on the tile row behind Fia's farthest attack range. To quickly summarize, both S2 and S3 are strong skills, but used in different ways for optimal results. If the enemy waves are funneled into a single lane, you use Fia's S2. It is notably stronger if you allow Fia to hit the enemies on the third tile in front of her. If the enemy waves are scattered into separate lanes, you use Fia's S3. It is slightly weaker than S2, but it is consistent at hitting multiple enemies from separate lanes. In general, due to Artilleryman's extremely high base attack, you'd avoid using a flat attack buff. For example, Bard Skadi's S3 has the highest flat attack increase currently in the game, yet if converted into percentage, it can only provide up to 36% DPS increase to a moduled Fia. This is taking into account the diminishing returns due to stacking Fia's first talent, and Bard Skadi's buff. Fia's S2 has a strong synergy with external SP generation sources. Most notable would be with Arketo's talent. An alternative is also Swordmaster Chen. By taking advantage of Fia's HP loss, her S2's performance can be significantly improved by Quercus and Saria, both having the ability to provide SP whenever they heal an ally. Not to mention, the heal would help Fia stay above 80% HP to maintain the doubled vigor effect of her first talent. Quercus can provide up to a 22% DPS increase for Fia's S2 when her S2 is active. Saria's synergy is much stronger with Fia, especially if equipped with her GUA-X module. Saria can provide up to an 80% DPS increase for Fia's S2 when her S3 is active. Let me teach you a lesson. Overall, Fiammetta is a strong operator, and is very effective at her role, which is eliminating multiple enemies at once. Enemy armor is barely an issue for her due to her high damage per hit. Should you try to pull or build Fia if you get the chance? If you are trying to pull for her, no. If you already have her, you can build her. Her Archetype subclass is rarely useful, and I am saying this as a fan of her Archetype, considering that my favorite operator has always been Meteorite. Nowadays, there are many other operators that do Artilleryman's role much more effectively. For example, there's the Fortress operators who basically do the same thing, except they can be deployed on ground tiles, which is much more convenient for positioning. They can also help block enemies for roll compression. Not to mention, finding the right tile for Fia is quite difficult due to the restrictions of her S2 and S3. But let's change the question. Does she do the job? Similar to Ifrit, if there is an Ifrit tile, then Ifrit works. If there is a Fia tile, then Fia works. Anyways, quite a short guide due to Fia's very simplistic nature. And that's it for now. Like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe for more content.